or make it quiet, or whatever. And I also want to tell you, this month, on Fridays, we have a series of shows. So tonight is Rick, and next Friday it's The Common Tongue, which is a hybrid show of written monologues and improvisation, where the improvisers haven't actually heard the monologues that they're improvising off of. And it's a dialect coach. I don't know how to explain this show. It's very unusual. It takes place in a giant mouth. I directed it. It's super fun. And then the following week, Emily Ballmer and I are doing a show called Saints and Sinners, Modern Dating Advice for the Modern Hellscape that is dating, or something like that. Anyway, I'll be here, Sister Mary Martha, and Emily's going to do that. So that's the Friday after that. So we hope you can join us for one of those things. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much for leaving your house. Please welcome Jonathan Mention. Let's go.
Thank you. And now Jonathan Mention will play the overture to the Rick Blog live on stage. There is an actual dumpster fire outside. Let's not take that as an omen. Tonight's show is about death. Death. You know, I write the Rick Blog, I do these shows, and people talk to me about it. And a lot of times they say, well, I find it very encouraging. Well, I don't have anything encouraging to say tonight. They say, oh, you make me feel better because there's this onslaught. And no, here's what I want to say tonight. There is an onslaught. Okay? So to cheer it up, it's like, you know, until you came in and then I said, well, you know, I'm a performer. I feel a little bit like being funny. But we were having a conversation beforehand and said, how can we be funny? Which isn't to say that it's despair. We're going to win. We are going to win. I have no doubt about that whatsoever. But they're going to take a lot of people out. So there's going to be a lot of death and destruction. Yay. Welcome to show business. So, you know, so you say, well, and I don't feel like ranting particularly. I mean, I might work one up. But it's kind of like squeezing one out if you gentlemen like this. And it's not, I don't really feel, I'm not frustrated. I mean, I see what's going on. I mean, you know, we're gonna die. So, and not the way that we planned necessarily for all of us. So, I mean, what are you gonna do? Well, there's a lot we can do. I mean, we are going to win. But first, since, and then I'm going to get, you know, I drove here, as Jane mentioned, and an interesting thing happens when you go over the border between Iowa and Nebraska. I mean, Iowa is, you know, there's crazy, insane people. So, you know, you might stop at a rest stop and you see like that look of like some, you know, Bible fanatic, and then they just like they're nuts. And then, but then you see, you know, like some kid that's going to school and just trying to figure things out. As soon as you get into Nebraska, it's all nuts. They are all out of their fucking minds. And, you know, an interesting thing happened to me. I'm driving through Nebraska, and I stop at a rest stop. And I'm accosted. This is unbelievable. But, you know, people read the Rick log. As you know, it's like the Huffington Post, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Reuters, just because it's a funny word, Reuters, and then the Rick log. So this is very, I mean, it's big. As a matter of fact, this is a digression, but one of the things that's happening is people are talking to me about, you know, how's this going as a business proposition? And I'll tell you, the money my wife is here, our lives have changed, right? But you know, one of the things that's happening is I'm getting press. So this is a bit of digression, but I want to give you some of the press that we've gotten. A provocation for idiots is entertaining as a yeast infection. Hetty Weiss, Breitbart News.
Wow.
Whatever happened to decency on stage? Billy Bush, Access Hollywood. This one I like. If people wanted to think they live in Europe, Chris Jones, Chicago Pan Pizza Quarterly. So I'm getting, by the way, there's a lot of old friends here tonight, and I would just like to say, to start things out, that I saw many, and we went to, you know, the friends of Danny Breen, wonderful guy, and I saw a lot of people that I knew, and a lot of people said, I'm gonna try to get there. I want to get there, I can't get there, something's happening, want to be there. A couple people showed up. I really appreciate all the good wishes that I got and the people who are here. And, you know, I don't live here, we're going to leave on Tuesday morning, so I just want to say that, you know people that know about the show and didn't come, and they're mutual friends of ours, and if you could just relay that they're dead to me. You know, this show, there's a lot of housekeeping we always have to do with this show in the beginning before we get to this is just it's a little comedic bonbon to bribe you because of your superficiality that you need this type shit in order for me to get to the serious stuff. These are the jokes, folks. I guess after I watched a few too many Don Rickles videos on YouTube. But this show is dedicated, actually there's a dedication in this show. It's dedicated to Donald Trump, a man who really makes me want to be a better man. He's given me a purpose in life. And I think that, you know, his negative example has really made me a better person. I remember my wife Paula is here. She's behind the iPad doing video. By the way, she doesn't just video the show, she videos me wherever we go. She doesn't trust me. So, but Paula would tell me early when Trump was on the national scene, when he just announced, if I did something selfish, which I do from time to time because I have a penis, she would tell me, you're acting like Trump. And that was the worst possible thing that anybody could say to me. And I really, honey, I don't think it was fair because, you know, I can be a jerk, but I never did like with the Muslim ban, you know, it's like, oh, Grandma, you're not part of the family, you can't come. You know, I mean, what kind of a prick does that? They said, well, we set it up, it's the immediate family, but grandparents can't come. You know, you gotta be a dick, so, and then we all know it's a dick. We had this long conversation beforehand, you know, to be real serious and earnest and come out and just be really earnest about this stuff, which is true, because I'm being honest, I don't want to joke around particularly, but I do. After I saw you, I wanted to joke. You know, that Trump, George Orwell said, and this is part of my dedication to Trump. George Orwell said, when the white man turns tyrant, it is his own freedom that he destroys. He becomes sort of a hollow, posing dummy. So, President Trump, this show is dedicated to you, you miserable asshole. It was a big day for Trump today. This is like the Bob Hope portion of the show. Oh yeah, I gotta tell you, it was a big day, and you know, the fact that you all laughed, you're old. So, which is fine, we all have our niche in show business, believe me. Lawrence Welk made a lot of money. So anyway, it was a big day for Trump. He was finally meeting Putin after several months of chatting on eHarmony. These are the jokes, folks. These are the jokes. Well, the show's about that. So I think I will get back to what I was talking about in Nebraska. So since we're talking about that, so I'm going through Nebraska and I pull off to the side of the rest stop. And as I was mentioning, these internet trolls come up to me and they accost me and I run into the woods, which was a neat trick because in Nebraska there are no woods. But I found this one clump of trees and I ran in there and they beat me and everything, but I fought them off and then I was laying under the trees bleeding. And a young girl from a finishing school found me under the trees, and she took me back to the finishing school. And there were all these women in this finishing school of all ages, you know, from the headmistress to the teachers and then the kids or whatever, the older kids. And I was there, and you know, they nursed me back to health, and they all wanted to fuck me. So I'm there, but then there was this melange of sexual tension and political tension because I was in Nebraska and they started to say, he's not like us, you know, he doesn't think like us. But that, and also the sexual jealousy, so they drugged me and they chopped my leg off. and then after that, you know, fortunately the leg grew back. And oh, I'm sorry, that didn't happen to me. That's the trailer for the Beguiled. And then, by the way, that's the spoiler alert. I just ruined the trailer for you. I mean, if they can tell the story, we went to Paul and I. Paul doesn't want to go see the Beguiled for some reason, and we went to see it, because I wanted to see it because we saw Helen Ford Coppola's movie, Paris to Win. She's Francis Ford Coppola's wife. Thank you. I knew that. I was reaching for the word, you know how wife, it's a tough word. So, this movie, and I'm not reading anything here either, Diane Lane is married to Alec Baldwin, who's a big movie producer, and they're in France. And Alec Baldwin has to go somewhere else. So Diane Lane takes a road trip with this French guy who works with Alec Baldwin. And this trip, you know, she shows pictures of like little pieces of butter that's cut like tulips. And I took Paula to this. I thought she'd like it because, you know, Paula watches HGTV, but this was like, so I thought, well, that kind of sucked, this movie, you know, they're traveling through here's a dish in a hotel, here's a shit, you know. It's like you're going through this trip, but then I realized that there was really a deeper meaning to this, because apparently Eleanor Coppola fucked one of Francis Ford Coppola's business partners. I mean, this is the message out of that one. So, Paris can wait. Really, wait. Now, there's another movie that's out that we saw. This is all Hollywood stuff. Basically, speaking of Hollywood, you know, we're staying at the Crown Plaza Hotel. Don't come and, you know, make a scene. But we're at the Crown Plaza, and I wanted to stay near the airport because I had another idea, but Paula's not into this either, right? I said, you know, there's a lot of strip joints around here. We should go and we should read to each other Robert De Niro and Sybil Shepherd's lines from Taxi Driver. And I just thought, this will be a real LA thing to do. But Paula, just like the Beguiled, she doesn't like all these stories where, you know, men are, it's wrong. Open your mind, you know, gender equality is a two-way street. By the way, I have to say, today is our anniversary. The love of my life, everything in my life has been better since I met Paula. And we've been happy for 38 wonderful years. We have 7 children and 17 grandchildren. And really, you know, the thing is that it's been a charmed life. Nothing bad has ever happened to us. Except that one time that the dog got lost up in the lake. That was the only bad thing that happened to us. Okay. Now into serious things. Why am I doing this comedy? Why am I doing this stand-up shit? Well, the reason why is because I want you to know that I'm a human being. And the Rick blog is about a human being dealing with what's going on. So you blow off a lot of steam. We have to laugh a little bit, I guess. You know, sometimes people, they contact me with the Rick blog, they say, you know, you had this wrong. Like, actually, somebody caught this. Dorothy Conway, who produces my podcast, our podcast, and she does a great job. And I did this podcast about how I was really pissed at David Brooks, this asshole who is a conservative op-ed writer for the New York Times. And he says that there's no evidence against Trump in this Russian affair. Now, there's not a case yet, but there's so much evidence that it's completely irresponsible that he said this, you know. But this guy, he has a history degree from the University of Chicago. Well, the first thing is just as a general chip on my shoulder that I have socially. I just want to say, I am a fucking lawyer, you fucking douchebag. You don't know what you're fucking talking about. And all you're trying to do is intimidate people into thinking this bullshit about, oh, there's no case. There's a ton of evidence, a ton. I don't want to go through all of it here. Listen to the podcast. You know, it's like Dean Martin says on the Rat Pack Live at the Sands. He said, if you want to hear me sing serious, you better go buy an album. So this is, by the way, we're going to go to Las Vegas on the back end of this trip. And that's one show that I really want to see is the Rat Pack Live. I really do. I like it, you know. That was like, it's a struggle that I have about political correctness. I still have it because these guys were actually like, you know, Sammy Davis Jr. would jump into Dean Martin's arms and he said, oh, I'd like to thank the NAACP for this wonderful trophy. You know, and I think that, well, but his heart was in the right place. Dean Martin would always like apologize. His heart was in the right place. On the one hand, I don't think we should be overly sensitive. On the other hand, I understand where people are coming from. If anybody can really figure this out, I suggest that you do a show about it, because I don't have a fucking clue. Because I'm really torn about that. Like for example, I would like to do now something that I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble for. But I'd like to sing a song as Clarence Thomas. And if I can just start it, and then I'm sure you can pick up. Because I'll just start. Well, it seems like it's a zippity-doo-dah day. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-ay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Nothing but fashions coming my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-ay. Oh, I just betrayed my races. Or racing. Is the truth? It's factual. Everything is satisfactual. Now, why did I do that? Probably because I'm very self-destructive. But also, because basically, if anybody should be depicted as a Sambo house nigger, it's him. And now I'm going to make a distinction between what I said and what Bill Maher said. Because what Bill Maher said was stupid, and I'm smart. I guess it's just, I felt that all day. I've been feeling that all day. Who used the word capo? And I said, well, you know what a capo is they were talking about something else. Was it Jeff? Is he here?
Maybe. I ramble on all the time.
Well, so do I. The capo, but they said, oh yeah, capo. Well, that's like a Jew that betrayed other Jews in the Holocaust. Now, this stuff is horrible, right? It's horrible. But what's going on in this country is fucking horrible. I told the joke. I told the joke that somebody reported me on Facebook because I use Facebook to distribute what I say. I told the joke that I said, Hitler killed 6 million Jews, and Trump care would take insurance away from 24 million people. So the way I look at it, Trump is leading 24-6. And people were like, oh God, that's in such poor taste. Is it really? Is there any difference between, and I'm serious about this, you say hyperbole, is there any difference between the industrialization of genocide, which is what the Holocaust was in the 1940s, and genocide by financial instruments? Because out of everything that's happened so far, to me, that healthcare bill is showing that these people want us to die. There's as a matter of fact, it's already happened, because we all have dear friends that for one reason or another, their insurance has lapsed, and they don't get a checkup or whatever, and then like terrible conditions come to them, and they have to live with all this suffering that's going to kill them. And I just think, you know, if you don't think everybody should have health care, I don't care if a person is the biggest fucking bum in the world. What kind of a fucking Nazi are you? And the idea to say this is hyperbolic, it's really interesting. At first I looked at it. Jake put a quote on the poster for this. It was Rosa Parks, and it said sometimes reason gets to the level of insanity. They want to kill us. Okay? They hate us. I mean, when I was driving through Nebraska, I'm listening to talk radio. which is all hosted by like people in San Diego or something, because no one who would have a gig hosting a talk radio show would live in Nebraska. So the whole thing is patronizing from the beginning. So I'm listening to this, and this guy calls up, and I'm wondering, like, for example, how the fuck does anybody support this guy? And I said stuff like, and what's going on? I said, how can anybody support this piece of shit? These pieces of shit. Mitch McConnell, Paul Ryan, are you fucking kidding me? I'm saying, what is it? So this guy calls in, he says, and the tweet du jour was about Mika Brzezinski. So the way the guy said, this Nebraska guy, he said, well, I think that Trump is probably right. I think she did that. But there was so much doubt in his voice that the reality is that he knows that Trump's not right. That tweet was insulting in two different directions. And parenthetically, this is what I mean about political correctness. What matters is the intent behind what is said. That's what matters. Mark Twain wrote about Nigger Jim, okay? Blazing Saddles is one of the most progressive movies ever made. We gotta be able to talk, and we gotta be able to be real about it, because to keep these words and not to really use them and dissect them is making us not deal honestly with how terrible things are. I mean, it's weird because it doesn't seem that way. I just drove across the country. We're staying at the hotel. You go, you have something to eat. You go to a movie. You see your friends. It's all fun and everything. And in the background somewhere, it's like you can hear the marching. Okay, this is what we had. So this guy who said, well, I think he's probably right that she pled. Now, first of all, it's a tremendous insult to Mika Brzezinski. That the President of the United States should, some asshole like me, the Rick block, I can say whatever the fuck I want. It's like the President. But then also, it's an insult to the people that it's intended for. Because let's look at Mika Brzezinski. She's a millionaire. She's part of a media elite in New York City. She was raised by a national security advisor to a president and an acclaimed artist. She's going to show up at a social event held by the President-elect of the United States bleeding? How fucking stupid do you have to be to believe some shit like that? It's like, oh yeah, the Queen of England, she was at a barbecue and she just dropped trow and she took a shit in the middle of the picnic table. I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. So I'm thinking well, this guy knows it's wrong. They're not stupid. They're not stupid. So why are they doing it? Well, let me answer my own question with a metaphor. I told you about going over the Iowa to the Nebraska border. Now, The Music Man, the famous musical, is set in Iowa. And in the story, Professor Harold Hill changes his ways and he finds that he loves Marion the librarian and he settles down and they live happily ever after. If The Music Man were set in Nebraska, Marion the librarian would see through Harold Hill's bullshit. She'd fuck him anyway just to feel something. And then she'd commit suicide. Because that's exactly what they're doing. They're nihilists. I stopped in Nebraska at this, I went off the beaten track and I went to this restaurant where real life farmers were. I mean, these people were really farmers. And they were all in there, and they all had their hatchet faces and their Calvinist beliefs. And it's Friday night, I guess I get to have some pudding, You just got a sense when I walked in, they're all looking at me. I'm there in my shorts and my golf shirt, blending. And they're looking at me, and it's like they want attention. It's like, there are people from Nebraska who have gotten attention. They've left Nebraska. They stay in Nebraska, they're afraid, they're jealous. They hear somebody say, I'm going to solve your problems. They know that it's bullshit. But they say, fuck it, I'm sick of picking this fucking corn. And who gives a shit what happens? And that's what's going on right now. Nihilists. Hitler wasn't stupid. He was shallow. And so is Trump, for example, because he's just one of them. Trump is going to come to a pathetic end. Okay, this is not going to end well for this guy. Because there is no end game, actually. It's just like Hitler. It's like, oh, we're going to march, and we get these big buildings, and I'm going to yell and everything, and we're going to kill a lot of people, and everybody's going to be scared we're really powerful. And then at the end, for what? You were going to conquer the world. Nobody was going to fight back. Not stupid. Shallow. It's like they don't have the guts to try to create something. And I have a dear friend in Idaho Springs, Colorado. And we're sitting around, we're talking about things, and I shared my opinion of Nebraskans at the dinner table. Turns out his wife is from Nebraska. So she said, well, do you think you're going to convince anybody by talking that way to them? Said, if you would have went into that restaurant and if you would have said what you said in a reasonable way, they'd embrace you. Yeah, my ass. They would have chained me up and run me behind a tractor somewhere. I mean, here's what I really think. We are engaged in the Second Civil War. And we're largely responsible. The Civil War, or the appeasement before World War II by England. We've let this shit go way, way too long. Citizens United, corporations, their money can talk, the corporate media, another satisfied customer, or perhaps going to pee. Either way, I really help them. But as you can see, let me say, what my end game is. It's like basically, I love show business. I love it. Always have. I'm not in show business. I'm not suited for show business. I mean, really, I got bullied a lot, even as an adult, and now I want to get back at everybody. That's not completely true, but it's kind of true. I mean, what I learned in my own life is when you deal with assholes like Trump or the people in Nebraska or whatever, you leave. You go. You get another job. You move. You get away from them. We can't get away from these people. Okay, so I think right now we have a civil war. By the way, I don't like that phrase, civil war, because I am completely nonviolent personally and completely against violence. Not only because I think it's wrong, but I also think it's stupid. Because they're a lot better at it than we are. And they have a lot more muscle than we do now because they're controlling everything in the government. I think what we have to do is this little piddly shit that I do, this is what I'm doing. I think we got to get up on our hind legs and we got to bark about it. We can't let this shit go on. We can't compromise, we can't tolerate it. I mean, there's a part of me, like, if it were 1860, I would be an abolitionist. It's like, slavery? Really? Owning a person? What? Stealing their lives? By the way, parenthetically, since this is the digression show, it's like the I never understood something about slavery. I never understood it. I knew it was unjust, obviously. I knew it was wrong. You know, of course it's wrong. But it was funny. It was a piece of art that made me think something, which shows really how removed I am to why somebody, you know, a black person would get upset with me using the word nigger. They say you don't have the right. And I understand where they're coming from. But it's like, but you don't understand. I'm trying to get out the electric paddles and like get the body politic to come to life. Because it's not resistance. It's not resistance. Anyway, back to slavery. Slavery was unbelievably cruel. I mean, just seeing a movie about it, I thought it was a great movie. I would never want to watch it again. It was one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen in my life. And I never thought of it. You know, they raped those people. They fucked them. They beat them to an inch of their lives. They would work them for 20 hours a day. They'd separate their families. This bullshit, which is not a way at all. And this is where, like, because famously, Jews in the Holocaust, slaves during the Civil War, how can you make these comparisons? I'm going to say it. The reason why I'm making the comparison is because that is what's happening now. That's what's happening now. There are people in this country, and they have means, that fucking hate us. All right? And so, you say, so my friend's wife, who's like, oh, but I grew up in Nebraska, they're wonderful people. It's like, here's what you do first. First, we got to prosecute Trump and all his associates and his cronies, and we got to get them out of there. And don't even think about the Democratic Party, because they've pretty much shown that they're useless. And they have to. The prosecutors are, to me, are the play right now. We got to get rid of them. And then after we get rid of them, we're going to have to deal with a huge social problem. And excuse me, go ahead, Chair. I'm sorry, Chair. See how nonviolent I am? I apologize. So, we're going to have to deal with a huge social problem, because here's something else I hear on the radio. I'm driving through Utah, and Kurt Schilling, the baseball hero, oh boy, he's on this show. It's about the Second Amendment. It's like, you know, your Second Amendment rights. And it's tied into when Jane first made the first flyer for this show, she put on it, I think it's still on there, because he hates, referring to me, he hates Trump. And it was just a couple of days after that guy shot the congressional softball game up for practice. So like, I hate Trump. I said, first of all, I'm a little bit, you know, I don't want anybody to think that I'm violent. It's like my friend in Idaho Springs, Colorado said, he said, you know, some of the things you write are like worse than what that guy ever wrote or said. And it's true. I have. But, you know, it's not violent. So I said, hates Trump. I said, and then I thought, you know, here's another reason why I don't hate Trump. Because when you hate somebody, you can't get fucking rid of them. They're always in your thoughts. You always have to deal with them. The thing is that we want to get rid of them. But I don't mean get rid of them like do anything violent. Because here's what they're doing. So this guy, Kurt Schilling, is saying, he said, you know, he said, here's what's going to happen. The fake news media is going after President Trump. And these liberals are, they're going to come to these protests, and they're going to come intending to hurt somebody. And then we're going to have to defend ourselves. And we're going to have to kill them. And then this is what they're hearing on the radio. I saw too that, and somebody please, you know, don't get on my ass if I don't have these facts exactly right. Because I just saw this, and again, I am not Reuters. I don't have a research department. I will retract and clean it up. Listen to the point, okay? This is humanity, it's philosophy. Jeff Flake, there was like a couple of guys, supposedly they said they were liberals and they were out to make violence. And then you see the picture of the guys, and you know, they're like they look like they're extras that were cast as like, you know, scary drifters, you know. and they're planting this shit, okay? Not to say that there's not some crazy, I think the guy from Illinois probably was, like, he just was crazy, and he started shooting people at that congressional baseball practice. But there are people like that. So our moral high ground is also our best strategic position. But we have to defeat these people. And then, for my friends, well, she's my friend too, the wife of my friend and my friend, who grew up in Nebraska, then it's Lincoln's Reconstruction policy. Then we don't punish and condemn. But right now, they have to be stopped. And I think the best way to stop them is with words. So here's some words for you. Sounded a little bit like Mr. Rogers. Cool the temperature a little bit. This is, oh, why am I looking here? It's not here. I often get asked, they say to me, people ask me, they say, Rick, what do you mean by the word fascist? Because I use it a lot. So exactly what do you mean? And some people think, is Trump really that bad? Or we never learned that in school. And by the way, my definition of it isn't from school. I'm just telling you what I mean. And we were rehearsing this earlier, and it was one of the most boring things to go through. So we're going to try to improvise something. Now, I basically have the definitions of all these elements of fascism. But I'm trying to think of a way we were trying to think of a way, like how to make it interesting, you know, how to connect with it. So I think I might give you like the very professorial, dry stuff that nobody likes. But then maybe you do like a Jeff Foxworthy thing, like, you know you're a fascist when. So maybe that'll be entertaining. Because you know, you need a little bit of the funny. You need a little bit of the entertainment. Even though I have to say, another digression, because I have all these blog posts, but they are kind of related because I write them and I write them a day at a time. So what the fuck, they're connected. One thing that I noticed, I loved Eastern Utah on that trip. And I love the desert. The desert is so clean. And there's a long stretch in Eastern Utah where there were no other cars on the road. And there's these gorgeous rock formations, like these huge rock formations there, and they're so stately. And I was driving through there, and I was thinking, why are we so cheap and small? Really? I mean, that's who we are. That's our nature. America doesn't have to be made great. Well, you know, Obama said that America is great. But that's really who we are. That's who everybody is. But everything's perverted and fucked up and twisted. So, you know you're a fascist when you're a nationalist. You want to make America great again. You make the theme of your inaugural address America First, which was done by Charles Lindbergh, who was a big fucking American fascist at the end of the 1930s. And a real anti-Semite too. Not somebody that made the 24-6 joke. You know, pick your battles. Also, there's enthusiasm here. Oh, wait, I'm getting into, I gotta do it with Jeff Foxworthy. You know you're a fascist when you have a lot of enthusiasm for fascists from other countries. I'll leave it there. You guys are laughing. You got it. You know you're a fascist when you take power after a democracy failed. Like if a democracy ended up not giving a voice to the people's concerns and it was all controlled by people with fucking money. And a lot of those fucking money were like these weird, sick bastards. Like Robert Mercer and the Koch brothers. And the Dart family, who we met, Paula and I met. I'm going to get into trouble. I probably lost a friend over it. You know, because this guy I know is a wonderful guy. He grew up with this guy. Here's the whole story. This guy, Dart, was really sick. He had like MS or something. We were at his house. He heard that I had been in Second City, so he made me like a mascot. I've talked about this in other shows, but I'm going to say he took me to see his fucking train set. He shows me a car. Oh, this is $10,000. 45 minutes. The most boring fucking 45 minutes of my life. Standing there in this big room with a fucking train set. I was bored with train sets when I was 8 years old. I'm like, with this fucking train set. And then the guy, he drinks like a fish. They smoke like chimneys. He's got a daughter, a stepdaughter, but they're not married or whatever, but a common law stepdaughter or something. I don't know. And she's like, you know, she's smoking. She says, oh yes, well, Tom, he has gotten me a ship and I'm going to Greenland. I don't know what she's going to do. You know, now she's an admiral because he had the money to buy her a ship. She's going to go there and jerk off whales or something. This is what these people are like running the world. These idiots. You know. That really gets me. So, you know, they government for them. So, you know you're a fascist when you blame the people. You blame, who knows, you blame the Democrats, you blame somebody for what you caused, and then you get power, and then what you do is you steal everything, and you rape everybody, and you kill everybody. That's when you know that you're a fascist. Fascist, fascist, everywhere a fascist. And not because I'm an Italian, but we were a little bit better than Germans. Oh, totalitarianism. You know you're a fascist when you're a totalitarian. When you're in charge of everything. You ever notice Trump is the boss everywhere? He gets a bunch of business people in, he's the boss. The president was never the boss. When he was president-elect and he lied about getting all those jobs for that carrier plant in Indiana, and the union leader there had the nerve to say, well, this is bullshit. He said, why don't you shut up and get back to work? Oh, thank you, Mr. President. You know you're a fascist when you're saying shit like that. You know you're a fascist when you have anti-democratic thought. The last small d Democratic president, Barack Obama, said, we are the ones we are waiting for. Trump says, I'm the only one who can fix it. Yep, it's still boring. It's a list, so I'm just going to give you the titles. You know you're a fascist when you manage the state by billionaires and generals? Look at everybody around Trump. Some fucking billionaire and some fucking general. Nobody else knows anything. You know you're a fascist when you create an other. I mean, Hitler did it with the Jews, and Trump seems to do it with everybody, except people from Nebraska. You know you're a fascist when you attack the press. Lugenpresse, you know, and do I even have to say, you know, obviously Trump's up there. You know you're a fascist when you have to have a personality cult around the leader. You know, Kim Jong, you know, the guy in North Korea who was the bad guy in The Incredibles, that movie, you know. And you know, it's like, oh, great, glorious. Oh, you have the largest penis. Oh, your shit comes out like gumdrops. Oh, everybody, you see that they have the cabinet, and then you see all these people. It's like Rex Tillerson. He was the CEO of ExxonMobil. That's a country itself. This guy said, "Well, Mr. President, I'm really pleased that you've given me the opportunity to help the world." And, you know, they're all like, you know, and then Trump says, "Everyone bowl my feces for everyone." You know, I mean, why? This is, you know, you're a fascist when you're pulling shit like that. Oh, and this is a really good one, because Mussolini believed in class inequality. He spoke of the beneficent inequality of man. And this is not only Trump, but this has been around forever. It's this idea. I'm the man with capital. I'm the man with the money. I had the vision. I created the job. You do what I tell you to do. Exactly. You have no freedom. I tell you what to do. And this is going to be best for you. You're going to have a good life. And it's going to be best for society. Because I, the businessman, created everything. I experienced this personally. I became a lawyer when I was 50 years old. I was flat on my ass. I had a law degree. I didn't have any other options. You think I liked it? I didn't stay one for that. Well, about 6 years, you know. It's like the people were arguing all the time. but I went there. I was a pretty good lawyer. And I passed. I passed the bar exam, first try, 25 years after I graduated from law school. You think I remembered anything from law school? I remembered how boring, the same way you're going to remember all these signs of fascism. That was mine. So I go in there and I'm working, and they're up my ass. They're giving me a hard time all the time. They're badgering me. They're mocking me. They're treating me like shit. So, and the partner, because I was in this, they fired me from this firm. It was a corporate law firm. I was on a case where a for-profit blood bank had given some people AIDS-tainted blood. And we were defending the insurance company that insured this filthy for-profit, something that shouldn't be for-profit, blood bank. And, you know, they gave me the files, and I said, it's not recommended. I said, what the fuck is this? So when I said, what the fuck is this? They said, there's the fucking door. And which was fine, because they were as much assholes as you would think as people that do this type of work. I'm very proud to say I got fired from many jobs because I wouldn't do what they told. Now, was I fucked up and stupid to be in these jobs? Yeah. Because the ripwad did not come from me just being smart and looking at the news and saying this is what happened. This came from me dealing with these people for a long time. I mean, they're and the reason why I'm bringing it up at this point in the show is because this guy at the partner, my boss said, well, I'm the one with the money. I thought, you're the one with the money. I mean, I'm not bathed in glory. My parents, I mean, specifically my mother, paid for my law school. I saved up the money when I had nothing so I could prepare for that bar exam. I'm the one that went in there and worked 9 hours a day. I'm the one that had every bit of intelligence and talent that I brought into this fucking firm. Who the fuck are you to tell me how I'm supposed to do anything? I'm making an investment into your firm. And now they would say, oh, you're rebellious, or you're this or that. And it has nothing to do with being rebellious. I'm not being rebellious. That's unjust. That's fascist. That's why we have labor unions. And that's why people can walk out of jobs. And it's the root cause of everything, like sexual harassment and every other kind of abuse that happens in the fucking workplace. And look, I don't even know, do they have a Secretary of Labor now? Did they get anybody? They got that guy from Carl's Jr. It's like, you know, said, would you let your daughter near? Yeah, if I hated her, I would let her near that guy. You know, what the fuck? Fuck them. You don't tell me what to do. I was going to say I tell you what to do, but that's not it. That's another thing about violence. Violence is about power. We don't beat them with power. We beat them with truth. And truth doesn't mean that we're right all the time. But it means that we're really trying to figure it out. God damn it, all right. Now it's great to have Jonathan. By the way, this goddamn shit up. Stop bossing me around! Fucking chair. It says, I'm here, and this you can't move here. Because I'm here. You're gonna look clump. Jonathan is here. And what a gift. So he's coming back to Chicago. He's going to stay in, we have a second bathroom. He's going to live in there. He's going to live in the powder room. And, you know, this is wonderful to have this music. It's like there's two separate things going on. Oh, enough hard talk. All right. I want to read this one. And Jonathan will add a lot in the music. But I really want to end on it because this is about death. And that's the reality we're facing here now. Now things are going to get progressively tougher. I mean, oh, now the chair is useful. Now you do what I tell you. Chair. Okay. This is called, I guess it's kind of a prose poem. And this is called The World Dies Slowly. The world is being murdered slowly. The apocalypse will not be executed in a sudden rain of nuclear bombs. The world is a terminal cancer case in hospice. Some well-meaning people attempt to keep it comfortable, mostly with sense-numbing drugs. But each day, mankind grows weaker. We grow so accustomed to the waning of life until we forget that it's happening. We go about our daily lives, enjoy a movie and a nice meal at an inexpensive restaurant, everyday stuff. We check in on the world regularly. We bring it warmth and affection. We protect it from everyday indignities as much as we can. And then we go home. We even begin to believe that things will always proceed in this sad and pleasant way. Then one day, with no fanfare or warning, the world will slip away, and there will be only darkness. Nothing will matter. No one will be left to remember. We chose to die. I'm going to paraphrase this because I was reading an article in the New York Times about Paul Manafort and this other guy who ended up being caught up in the Trump investigation. And it seemed like a run-of-the-mill article. It didn't seem like a big deal. Okay, well, there's another person that's involved in this criminal conspiracy that is the Trump administration. But then I come across this paragraph that even at this point, and I'd like to think of myself as not being a naive person, you know, Paul Manafort, who, for people who are watching it on the video who might not be familiar, was Trump's his second campaign manager. And he had all sorts of dealings in Ukraine with oligarchs that were sympathetic to Russia, and he's in a great deal of trouble. But I find out that Ted Devine, who was Bernie Sanders' campaign manager, worked with Manafort. This was just like a little paragraph in the article. He worked with Manafort. And he worked for this Ukrainian candidate who ended up becoming the Ukrainian dictator. And then he quit in 2012 because the candidate who became the dictator put his political opponent in prison. And Manafort said, not Manafort, I'm sorry, Ted Devine said, that's it. That's too far. Now back to the poem. I guess Devine's resignation at that late date passes evidence of a moral compass as the world takes its shallow breaths while drowsy on a morphine drip. Tad Devine isn't exceptionally evil. He's making a living. He's trying to get rich. He's making a name for himself. He is famous in his field. He's an accomplished professional. He probably sits on the boards of theaters or hospitals. He speaks at conferences and appears on TV. And that is what is killing us. Everyone is carving out a niche. Bernie Sanders took years to build a brand as successful as a successful American socialist. It's very good business. And as everyone carves, the world bleeds to death. This piece is not about Tad Devine or Bernie Sanders. It's not about Paul Manafort or Donald Trump. The diagnosis is bigger than any individual. It's about all of us. Which makes me question this next paragraph of the poem. But I'll read it anyway, because it's not actually completely true. The only reasons that I ever worked at any job was either to make a living and survive, or because I loved what I was doing. I sometimes felt conflicted or ashamed about not pursuing success more aggressively, but I couldn't do it. Something inside me told me to stop from doing so. And now I know why. I sense something. The pursuit of success is killing the world. A good writer is suspicious of both skepticism and praise for his words, and so is a good person. The words and the life just are. The world is pure in its essence. It's that Utah desert. It's self-regulating. If every person was satisfied with who they were and acted out of their particular being, mankind would be in harmony. As a matter of fact, all creation would be in harmony. But we choose to perform before each other and use the applause as a means of self-indulgence and domination. Mankind is dying of narcissism. We can't place our attention and resources in service of the necessities of maintaining life, like healthcare and fucking food and clean water and the education of children, because we are too addicted to self-aggrandizement. There is plenty of everything we need, but we hoard it and we withhold it from the rest of ourselves in an attempt to prove that we are special and we are better than the rest of ourselves. Purity is mocked as being unrealistic, but reality is pure. That so-called real world is an insane hallucination. The acceptance of the success of the few is the murder-suicide of the many. The world's salvation lies in a mass spiritual transformation that seems impossible, but who knows? Sometimes people do the right thing when they're facing extinction. But will that happen when Armageddon is occurring so slowly and it's perceptible to only a few? The Holocaust of the 1940s was carried out in death factories in Germany. Today's Holocaust is being carried out in banks in New York. Industrialization has been replaced by financial instruments. The horrors of our time aren't as crude as gas chambers or slave plantations. They're more subtle, like poor schools and the things that I mentioned: food, healthcare, education. But they are just as lethal. Modern Holocaust deniers refuse to acknowledge how bad things are. Our petty concerns with our successes and failures is our way of denying the current Holocaust. Hope? Oh, there's all sorts of hope. I'm very hopeful. Get over ourselves and be ourselves, and hope that others follow our example. The world dies slowly unless we not only get rid of Trump and everything around him, but we get rid of the spiritual perversion that has made it possible. Copyright 2017, Richard Thomas.